So how do I fix my back pain? The age-old question that everyone wants to know. But the better question is, fix what part and in what order? Because doing the right thing but at the wrong time can keep your back stuck and slow you down or completely stop you from getting back to normal. When it comes to back pain, we need to be clear on something before we get into the detail. There's a big difference between calming pain down and actually fixing a system that's broken. So calming pain is about short-term relief. It's suppressing a danger warning system. It's almost like turning off the smoke alarm, even if there's still smoldering embers and smoke in the air. Fixing a system is more about restoring function and capacity and helping the body build back to 100%. And of course, on the way, make that pain reduce and feel a whole lot better as a byproduct. So things like heat, rest, massage, painkillers, they can calm things down. But if nothing changes underneath the surface, that same issue is still there. The pain's usually going to come back again. And unfortunately, with back pain, there's a very high probability that it will return. And we commonly see that each episode is progressive. What that means is that each time there's a flare up, it's a little bit worse each time, it's a bit more painful, and then it starts to last longer and is more debilitating. So what I hope people can see here is that relief without restoration is going to be temporary by design. And the longer that your body has to keep adapting around it in the background, the longer it then takes to restore and fix that original problem. When it comes to managing back pain, most people don't fail because they don't try. They tend to fail because they do things out of sequence. So let me give you 3 examples. The first one is they're going to load a system that doesn't move properly. And if the spine's restricted, it isn't moving well, we may look at, say, exercise as a solution. But because things aren't moving well and we're exercising, we then put too much strain on structures that can't move under that load. So we may be getting stronger in some parts, but then that increased strain on the others ends up causing people to then relapse again. And we see this commonly with athletes, particularly in gym-based environments where they're doing rehab. They're really strong, but one small movement under load that the spine can't tolerate because it's stuck and it's not moving properly, bang, leads to a huge relapse. Next one is they strengthen a system that isn't coordinated. Our nervous system is constantly dialing and trimming movement to stabilize those joints perfectly, control muscular contraction. And when we have spinal dysfunction from an old injury, our brain then has difficulty accurately controlling that movement and joint stability. So they get really, really strong, but the brain can't control that strength. An analogy is a bit like an orchestra. The orchestra that's in time, it's got a great volume, it fluctuates as needed, it sounds fantastic. And that's like a well-controlled, strong system. But an orchestra that's super loud, think really strong muscles, but completely out of time, think uncontrolled movement, is one that sounds like a train wreck. And for our body to work well, we need both control and strength working together at the same time. The next common one is they stretch a system that's already guarding. It's trying to protect us from something and we're trying to release that tension. Now, just think for a minute, our brain here is very clever. It's trying to do something for a reason. If we're tight, in spasm, in pain, our mind goes to, all right, I just want to get out of pain. Let's take this protective measure off, stretch it out, massage it, do whatever we need to do to feel more comfortable. But we need to think a bit deeper here. Why is our body doing this? Because naturally our bodies are going to try and be as efficient as possible. Our nervous system doesn't just want to waste valuable energy on keeping us tense and tight all the time. And often the reason that we feel this tension isn't because we've done too many weights at the gym, it's because it's a safety measure. It's trying to protect us from further injury or potential injury. Think of like limp mode in your car, where the computer will limit the performance of your vehicle to protect it from something that's detected, where the computer in the car has detected something's not working well, and if it overdoes it, it might break something. This is like our body. So it's important to sort this causative factor out first before we then override that protective mechanism. Just like your car. You wouldn't see the engine light come on and then floor it like you're going for a race. And this is why managing back pain can be elusive, because when people experience a flare-up, they think they did something wrong. They look for the cause, and when really it was actually the order that was wrong, not necessarily the action that caused that flare-up. So when it comes to back pain, there's a simple order that works best. Step 1 is to restore motion. So before you do anything else, the joints need to be able to move. Because if a joint isn't moving, the nervous system cannot sense what is going on and it doesn't trust it. It's like going into limp mode, it protects things. And that's why stiffness and guarding and pain are going to hang around if we're stuck in that cycle there. Restoring motion is all about giving the brain that clear input again, starting to get that mobility back into the spine. Step 2 is then improving the control of that system. So once motion improves, then we can start to work on the control. This is where coordination, balance, and stability all come into play. Now, big warning, if you skip this step and just jump straight into strengthening is just going to amplify the dysfunction. And the third step is building strength. So we're up to the part that most people look at with rehab. Strength is important, but you've got to get that motion and control right first. Otherwise, you're just loading up that compensation. So remember that loud bit in the orchestra we were talking about? Working on strength is almost just like turning the volume up without actually fixing the timing of things. So strength doesn't fix dysfunction, it's going to reinforce what pattern's already there. So you've got to get that pattern right and then build the strength into it. So before we continue, I just want to touch on rest as well, because once upon a time, your medical doctor would have prescribed bed rest for low back pain, and unfortunately some still do. Now, even though that's very outdated, a lot of people still rest their way into trouble. Short rests can be helpful for reducing the irritation, but long rest deconditions joints, muscles, and our nervous system. You see, less movement leads to more stiffness, more guarding, and lower tolerance. We get muscle wastage, and even in our brain, the neural connections become weaker, and our brain starts to forget how to control all those intricate movements that our spine can do. So when you finally move again, that system is at risk of another failure from a very low level of stress. And this is where chiropractic care fits into the picture. The chiropractor identifies those specific joints that are restricted and in what plane of motion that restriction is most evident in. And then they start to use very specific adjustments to restore that joint motion back to its ideal. It's not just like cracking a joint, it's actually about restoring motion in a system that's lost it. The adjustment and then that restored movement allow small nerve receptors in the muscles and the joints to fire again. And when they start firing up, that improves nervous system input. So as the brain can then better see what's happening through the joints and muscles, we then get better movement. We can actually use exercise and rehab to start to recover again. Now, some people think that they can just do the adjustments and then skip the exercise. I think the big point to take home here is that chiropractic doesn't replace exercise. It actually makes that rehab exercise effective. So in the long term, exercise is going to maintain those gains. It builds resilience after motion returns, but exercise alone without restoring that original motion often just ends up chasing symptoms. So if you're asking how to fix back pain, start by asking yourself if you're doing things in the right order. That order being motion first, control second, and then finally strengthening. Now that sequence is exactly what we break down in detail in the Back Pain Breakthrough webinar and on our back pain page. Because once the order's right, we can start getting some progress that doesn't feel so random. If you'd like to look at that back pain resource, check out the description below.